I was just here to carry things, so I stood holding the engine part while the captain and the mechanic talked with the repair folks, and I waited to be told where to put it down. Everybody here was shorter than me. It was easy to ignore the conversation going on at waist height and look around the repair shop. It was a big hangar, long and wide with space for multiple ships at once. A sporty blue cruiser was in pieces on the left. Something chunky and industrial crouched silently on the right. Repair techs of a couple different species wandered about, carrying tools, pushing hover sleds of spare parts, and somewhere distinctly singing. I couldn't swear to it, but I was pretty sure those voices were human, and they echoed like they were inside of something. "That will be fine," said Captain Sunlight. "We can wait that long if you're sure there won't be further delays." She stood tall and dignified, a respectable yellow lizard alien who was just about the right height for me to accidentally whack with an elbow if I wasn't careful. "As sure as we can be," said the main repair person, a red-brown strongarm with a more squid-shaped head than octopus. He waved a tentacle. "If any other mechanical issues come to light, then we can't make any promises." Mimi grumbled. "There won't be any of those. I make sure of it." His own green tentacles were fidgeting in what looked like irritation at having to let someone else work on his ship. "If not for this faulty piece of grease, we wouldn't even be here." He pointed at the metal thing I was carrying. There was a crack at one of the seams. "Then we should be able to get you back in the shipping lane soon enough," the repair guy said. "Feel free to set that over here." He waved over a passing tech with an empty sled and instructed me to set the part down. Quick conversation with the human led to a label maker marking the thing as ours. Then the boss was ushering Captain Sunlight toward the office where paperwork waited, and Mimi was told to give a different tech as much information as he could about the minor engine failure we'd had. I stood back while they talked, and our beloved lemon-shaped spaceship waited patiently for attention. The humans were singing again. I was pretty sure they were deep in the guts of the blue cruiser. The industrial ship appeared to be finished. As I watched, a crew arrived to tow it forward into another slot, leaving this one empty. Then a door opened on the cruiser and the singing was louder, and hey, I knew that song. It was a good one. I grinned, wondering if they'd think it strange if I sang along. Mimi said sourly, "Sounds like quite a party in there." The tech, another strong arm, waved a tentacle and said, "Humans like to sing." She glanced up at me belatedly and added, "They say it helps them work." I nodded. Made sense to me. "As long as it's not a distraction, fine," said Mimi. The tech turned to a new human who was bringing over a replacement part to match our broken one. "Hey, you want to explain to these fine folks why singing isn't a distraction? I know you guys had some reason." "It's fun," the human said, looking young and cheerful and only slightly smeared with engine grease. "Some songs are good for coordinating motion, like when we have to work together to screw in a big part. Some just make the day better. And of course, some ships appreciate a good song." "Don't start that again," the strong-arm said in exasperation. "What?" the human said, grinning. "It makes the stabilizing cilia settle, or the ships just like to hear some purring." "Anyways," the strong-arm told Mimi, "it won't distract from the work. Sometimes eccentric folks are the most talented, you know how it is." Whatever Mimi was going to say to that was eclipsed by the sound of a loud single-person ship coming in for a landing in the empty spot next to us, which was a surprise for everybody. The other ships had been towed in. This one was sparkly and apparently too good for that. When the door opened to admit a mesmer whose exoskeleton sparkled with gemstone decorations, the human tech groaned quietly. Someone was hurrying over from the main office to greet her. I sidestepped over to the tech and asked in an undertone, "Repeat customer?" Yes." He was quiet enough that everyone else probably couldn't overhear, not with the sounds of the engine idling and the mesmer complaining loudly. "She refuses to let us change the filters because opening the compartment might scratch the finish. And she hates singing." "Yeah, that tracks," I said, watching the representative try to placate her. Other people had already dropped what they were doing to run a diagnostic on her ship. More fun and games with customer service, when the problem individuals got preferential treatment just to get them out of everybody's hair. But this one clearly wasn't earning herself any favors. The diagnostic showed problems with the filter. What a surprise. Turns out those were important and actually did need to be changed. Plus, there were other issues that would need detailed inspection to resolve. The representative told her, with tactful sympathy, that the highest quality filters were on back order and would take a while to get. Perhaps she would like some refreshments in the office while the knowledgeable employees assessed the other matters. She stormed off in a whirl of sparkles and self-importance, and the tech beside me sighed in relief. Mimi and the other strong-arm were already moving over to our ship, deep in conversation about engine components. I asked the tech, what are the odds that those other matters just need a good song to fix? He smiled. If I was a ship that had to deal with her all the time, I'd sure appreciate a nice shanty or two. I glanced back at Mimi. He was busy, the captain was busy, and the rest of the crew were off on other errands. Can I help? I know that song, and I don't have anything better to do. The human tech thought it was a fine idea. Why not? The more the merrier. Come on over here and help us sing to this cranky customer's spaceship. I followed him over to where several other humans had the engine compartment open, with all sorts of tools and scanners and miscellaneous whatevers at play. This ship looked entirely different from the parts I'd seen of our engine, and in moments it was being serenaded out of spite. One of my favorite human pride space shanties, no less. And you'll hear us singing loud and proud in halls and hulls and ventilation chutes. You'll know us by our range and joy, and we sing better than you. Great song, suitable for all ranges of singing voices, including the lower range that I've always liked singing in. Soprano nonsense was never my style. Give me those good low tones that make things vibrate. A couple of the guys here had impressive bass voices, and that was an honor to hear. The group of us sang through the whole song, loudly, while the distant office door was shut. Then, hilariously, the diagnostics pinged. Hey, the stabilization issue resolved, said the woman with a complicated tech readout. The cilia really did need to settle. The guy I'd been talking to laughed aloud. Poor ship just needed a lullaby. I told him I'm so glad I could be a part of that. The door to the office opened, but it was just Captain Sunlight coming back to our ship. I said a hasty goodbye and hurried over to join her. Somebody else was bringing a new hover sled over to our ship with other parts, apparently related to the problems from the broken bit. All good? I asked her. She nodded. Good enough. The repairs promised to be quick and within budget. This installation sounds like a hassle, but they've agreed to let Mimi oversee the process. Well, he does know all the quirks of our ship, and he's the one who'll have to deal with it in deep space if something isn't fastened down right. I thought about it. Hope that's not too much of an annoyance for them, though. They probably prefer to just handle everything themselves. Mimi has credentials, Captain Sunlight said with a shrug. A passenger ship crewed by untrained individuals would be different. And at least he's not likely to be as much of a headache as some customers I could mention, I said with a glance at the office. Captain Sunlight's voice was dry when she said, Yes, I saw that. Let me just check with Mimi, then we can leave them to it. Tell him to let the techs sing if they want to, I said with a smile. Sometimes the spaceships like it.